Now see, what all things you understood from, we have solved 2 years case studies. Okay, so 2 year question papers we have solved. What all things you understood from this? We have, it is very simple. There is nothing difficult in ethics paper, and it's all about the way you are going to manage the time and how you're going to write the answer. The questions are going to be very simple. Theory parts completely we have discussed. You won't find anything which is unusual or abnormal or directly from the syllabus, right? And maybe 2 3 quotations you will get, and that you have to write from your perspective. For that, nobody can teach you, or you cannot also study. Even if you study, what you will study, you will hardly read that statement. But that statement or the quotation that you will again read in the exam also, you need to interpret based on the demand of the question. So that is something which you need to do based on the knowledge that we have accumulated in the theory part. Okay, so now when it comes to case studies, what all things you have to do? I'll just repeat one thing, these things which I've discussed before also. First thing that you need to focus is on the facts which is given in the case. So you might have seen I'm underlining and I'm encircling the most important points with respect to a case study. And you might have observed that I'm adding all those issues in the answer also. So we are trying to take all the stakeholders which is given in the case study. We are trying to take all the important situations and the issues which are involved. So first you need to understand the facts of the case. And also you have to go for various stakeholders. So if you see in that hospital case itself, I have told you various stakeholders. The doctor is a stakeholder, the state is a stakeholder, the income tax officer is a stakeholder, and you are representing the state. The region is part of it, the public is part of it, right? So you have to identify the stakeholders, and you have to write your answer from the perspective of each one of them involved in this case. Okay, then you have to identify the ethical issue which is involved here. In all the question, since it is in this paper, there will be some ethical issues which are involved. So the moral or ethical issues or ethical dilemma or the conflict of interest, whatever it is, which is asked in the question. Okay, and then you need to tell how to solve this problem, this issue. Okay, or what are the alternative. Solve means you have to provide the alternative. And not only providing this alternative, once you provide this alternative, you have to evaluate these issue. For example, when we have discussed that the doctor, we can go with the, you can ignore that technical issue in that case of doctor. So what you can understand is, you have given that option to solve the problem. You have to evaluate that option that you're going to exercise on various ethical grounds. And various means you can talk about mainly two perspectives of what you need to use: utilitarianism and deontology. So utilitarianism means whether greatest number of people are satisfied, are they getting greatest number of happiness, or is it for the larger public interest? That is one thing. Secondly, you have to focus whether you are following the procedure, rules, and etc. Okay, so that is how you need to evaluate the action that you're doing or the solution that you're providing on the ethical grounds. Other ethical grounds you can ignore as of now. These are the two that you need to mainly focus here. One, for larger public interest. Are you doing something to cater the needs of the larger public interest, or is it going to serve the larger public interest? Or second is, you are fulfilling your duty or not. Both are coming together, that's the best. Okay, and then what you need to do is conclude. Okay, so this is how you can give better answers in the case study. So mainly these are the steps. You have to talk about all the stakeholders in detail and write answer from their perspective. Identify the ethical dilemma, solve that issue. How to solve? This is how you need to solve. Okay, so overall consequences of the alternative that you're providing has to be given. So when you're giving this alternative or when you're giving the solution, you can talk about 1 2 solutions. This is first approach. On these ethical principles, these are good. Second approach also you can give. Okay, now let's look into this paper, 2017 paper. Okay, so conflict of interest in the public sector arises when Okay, these three: official duties, public interest, personal interest, are taking priority one above the other. So the question is, how can you solve this conflict in administration? Describe with examples. So how to solve conflict of interest? This is something which we have already discussed. So you have to explore, you have to explain, or you have to tell that there is a conflict of interest. And okay, what are the various methods in which you can solve this? Mainly, if it is related to the administration, you can strictly follow the code of ethics or code of conduct. Okay, so it has to be defined properly so that it can take care of the conflict of interest, right? Secondly, for example, yeah, this is something which you can do. Then what else you can say? Proper transparency has to be ensured in the action or accountability. So we have discussed about all this. You can talk about basically the Nolan Committee recommendation mostly. That is actually trying to solve most of the conflict in administration. Actually, if you are following that good values of civil servants, most of the conflicts will be resolved. When you talk about accountability, you can talk about all levels of accountability: upward, downward, horizontal, vertical, all levels of accountability. You can talk about proper check and balance. Okay, and proper foundational values that we have discussed under the Nolan Committee, like responsiveness, objectivity. So there should not be any personal bias, personal favor, or anything. Objectivity, honesty, integrity. So if you come across any such kind of situation where personal interest and public interest is going to be compromised, you can tell to your senior also that this is a situation, right? So openness. Okay, for example, you are conducting an interview, and your daughter or son is also, or your relative is also, or your sister, son or daughter is also coming and participating in this interview. Okay, so then this is a conflict of interest, definitely. Even though he qualifies and he is one of the top candidate who can secure that job, still there will be a question of transparency here. So this is definitely a conflict of interest, and you can inform the senior official that there is a problem in conducting this interview as my nephew or niece is participating in this interview. So that is one other thing that you can say in this particular answer. That is one example that you can write here. Okay, so this direct one, we have discussed it. All points we have discussed. Any doubts in any of this, or we can discuss it further also? Transparency, accountability. When we discussed about the World Bank, probity in governance, we have discussed all. Courage, justice, etc. We have discussed when we discussed about various virtue. Right, under Plato we have discussed courage. Yesterday also we have discussed under the when we discussed about that minister's case study, right? Fortitude, courage. Okay, examine the relevance of the following in the context of civil service. This was actually asked in 2013, the first year it was asked. Okay, and this also was asked in 2013, both asked together. So the same thing is actually repeated. I think in 2013 they asked it as fortitude. Okay, so now the question here is relevance of transparency. So what is the relevance? It will create trust among the minds of the people, and there will be a clarity with respect to the functioning, right? When the transparency is there with respect to the functioning and everything, there will be a clarity, and everything will be based on rules. So the rule-based decision will ensure transparency, and that will be leading to corruption-free system. So that is one of the most important, and it also strengthens the moral and ethical framework in the society and of the organization. Okay, so since everything is rule based, chances of corruption will come down. Nepotism, I hope you know about nepotism, favoritism, etc. That will come down, right? So and how to ensure transparency, one line you can write about that also. But remember, this is of 10 mark and 150 words for all these 5. So maximum 30 word is what you can, maximum 30 words. Don't write actually 30 words. It have to be like 25 words. 25 words means what? 3 sentences is what you need to write maximum. Okay, so when you're writing the relevance, you hardly write 3 sentences for that. And you can write in one line RTI, importance of RTI, just one line RTI. You cannot write RTI in detail. We have discussed that already. Okay, then what about accountability? Accountability means answerability. We have discussed it already, so I'm not getting into that. So it ensures the checks and balances, and it actually prevents or misuse of power, right? And also it ensure the rule of law. And this also similar to transparency will ensure that every decision is taken as per the procedure or the rule based. So when accountability is there, what we have discussed in transparency, this also reduce corruption. Okay, and it will also empower the citizen, and the public trust will increase. So these are the relevance. Now see here, I am talking many things, but you don't want to write all these. Understand, this is of, you just take this like this only. This is of 2 mark, right? Each one you need to write for 2 marks. So what you will write for 2 mark, that is the question. Okay. Then fairness, justice. We have discussed different types of justice, distributive justice, and everything we have discussed. So that has been covered, right? So it will also increase the trust, faith, and it will increase the morale of the people, public, and also the organization. All these you can write. Okay. And this will lead to good governance. Courage and conviction, very important. From that case study that we have discussed, like the minister is asking you to do something, in that case study, like the highway project is coming and he's asking you to divert that to the area where he's having land, but you are saying no, right? That need courage, conviction. And for implementing any policy also you need courage and conviction. Taking some discretion for the benefit of the larger public also you need the conviction. Okay, because I have told you civil servants are getting a lot of discretion in implementing policy, because they are directly dealing with the people in the ground, right? In the actual reality they are dealing with the people. So you have to take some decisions in the field also. Directly you have to take some decisions. So that demands a lot of courage and conviction. Then what else? You are a police officer, and if you want to take action against a criminal or a politician or a powerful person, you definitely need courage and conviction, right? So these are the relevance. Spirit of service, obviously again you need to write that. So it will ensure responsiveness to all and for the larger public and the public welfare. It will also keep a high morale for the civil servant, and it will motivate the civil servant and also the larger public with respect to the services. Okay, and it will also lead to proper implementation of the decision if you have the spirit of service, right? Otherwise, if you are taking it as a job, coming at 9 o'clock and going at 5 o'clock, then implementation of decisions will not happen. That lead to red tapism, that lead to non-achievement of goal. So if you need to achieve the goal, if the goal is to serve the public, then what is required? Spirit of service is required. So I hope this is clear. Okay, now the rest of the questions. Now you see this question. This is again very open question. Young people with ethical conduct are not willing to come forward to join active politics. So suggest steps to motivate them to come forward. So you need to bring the young people. So why they're not coming? They're connecting the politics with corruption, nepotism, and all the negative aspects, right? And they consider politics as the means to achieve their ends. Like you want to become rich, you want to be a corrupt politician, right? So that's how the young people consider. So, and in fact, if you remember the Mahatma Gandhi's principles, 7 principles that we have discussed, or the 7 sins that we have discussed, in that politics without principles we have discussed, right? So if you remember that 7 sins, that is going to help you a lot in different answers. Okay, you can just simply quote that. With respect to education we have discussed, with respect to politics we have discussed, with respect to religion we have discussed, with respect to science we have discussed. Okay, so politics without principles. So that is actually the question. So what you need to do, see, you need to motivate The persuasion should be there, and you need to motivate the young people by saying that if you are not coming, then this unethical people will continue and the system will go like that. If you really want to make the change, then you have to participate, right? So you have to make attitudinal changes required. Attitudinal change is very important. Attitudinal change towards politics is very important. Okay, and you can say that you can, these people, young people, can set an example for honest and ethical politicians. So in future also, more and more young people will come, right? And you can come to politics and you can implement things in a more ethical way, which will help the larger public. Okay, and better emotional intelligence, compassion, persuasion, social influence, all these you can say. And you can also tell people that the country really want them, because if things are going like this, if these uneducated corrupt politicians are handling, they will not take policies properly, or the implementation will also be a problem, right? So if you need to make a change, you have to be part of this, right? And this politics can be used as a medium to serve the mankind. So if you really wish to serve the mankind, then if not civil service, you can use politics as also as a medium. If not, what will happen? The unethical people will continue, and it will further demotivate the young people. Okay, so if you do all these things, it will motivate the young people. And that famous statement also you can write, be the change that you want to see. So you can change the system, you can come to the politics, be ethical, be moral, do good things for the public, and then the future generation will also get motivated with your action. So be the change that you wish to see in others. Now recently you can see so much of young people are coming because of the awareness, because of the Panchayati Raj, right? And young politicians are coming and they're getting becoming ministers also. So the question is whether you want to be a part of the change. You act as an agent of change, so it will motivate the future generation, and that will lead to the holistic development of the society or the country. If not, the same thing will continue, and that will further weaken the society or the country. Okay, so next one. This also we have discussed when we discussed about integrity. One of the tests of integrity is complete refusal to be compromised. So see, you might be offering many things, right? So no compromise at any point of time. Even you might have put in front, in a situation, or you will be pointed by gun. So you will be, facing a situation where your life is in threat, but still no compromise. That's the situation of integrity. Okay, so integrity is actually the validation of honesty. Long, right? The extreme level of honesty is what integrity. You can be, see, uh, this is very higher level concept. So integrity means it has to be there in your what you speak, what you do, everything. It has to be there. Honesty, you even say, even speak something and you can express that honesty. But if you need to say that, it is if it is related to integrity, what you speak, what you do, everything has to be, same, right? So honesty without integrity is possible, but integrity without honesty is not possible. You can be honest sometime and you may not be honest at some time. So that means you can be honest but not, integrity, right? Integrity means at any point of time, whether the people are watching you, whether you are alone or you are in the public, it doesn't matter what is the situation, you will always remain honest. So no compromise at any situation, whether in threat or offered with some material benefit, you will never going to compromise. So you are putting the public service and public interest at the highest level here, not the private benefits. And you will fulfill duties and obligations responsibly. Okay. Make sure that the public money will not be, wasted, or it will be used efficiently, and better behavior, even in difficult situation. Okay. So no compromise in any situation, no compromise on legal aspect, no compromise on ethical aspect at any particular situation. So if there is a compromise, that's not an upright action, that is compromising integrity also. Okay, now this is again we have discussed, but we will discuss this again tomorrow. The other 2-3 questions are there that we'll discuss tomorrow. These statements I won't be discussing. You can just read that. Abdul Kalam statement is there, Napoleon statement is there. This we'll discuss tomorrow, corporate governance. And then we will complete the case studies in 2017. Then 2 more years is left out. That also will complete within next week. Okay, so we'll stop here. See you guys.